Welcome to the channel Old Glory Coins. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people walk past pennies and dimes every single day, never giving them a second glance. But what if I told you that one specific dime, minted in a year you probably remember, could be worth an absolutely staggering $44 million? Yes, you heard that right. $44 million for a coin that might be hiding in your old piggy bank, your grandparents' drawer, or even in the change jar sitting on your kitchen counter right now. This isn't some fairy tale or collector's fantasy. This is the 1997 Roosevelt Dime, and it's one of the most extraordinary pieces of American numismatic history that could literally change your entire life in an instant. But here's the thing. Before we dive deep into this incredible coin, I need you to understand something crucial. This is just the beginning of today's journey, because after we explore every fascinating detail of this 1997 treasure, we're going to reveal another Roosevelt dime that's even more valuable, even more rare, and even more likely to make your jaw drop to the floor. So you absolutely must stick around until the very end, because what's coming next will blow your mind in ways you cannot even imagine right now. Now, let's talk about why this particular 1997 Roosevelt dime is commanding prices that rival luxury estates and private islands. The 1997 Philadelphia minted Roosevelt dime was produced in massive quantities. We're talking about hundreds of millions of these coins rolling off the presses at the United States Mint facility in Philadelphia, which means under normal circumstances, these dimes should be absolutely worthless beyond their 10-cent face value, right? Wrong. Because somewhere in that massive production run, something went incredibly, catastrophically, beautifully wrong. And that's where our story gets absolutely fascinating. You see, the Roosevelt dime has been a staple of American coinage since 1946, designed by Chief Engraver John R. Cynic to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who had passed away the previous year and whose fight against polio made him a national hero, which is why you'll notice the torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. For decades, these dimes circulated without much fanfare, just doing their job as everyday pocket change, helping Americans buy newspapers, candy bars, parking meters, and phone calls. But 1997 was different. Something happened during the minting process that created a phenomenon so rare that professional coin dealers, seasoned collectors, and auction houses would eventually go into absolute frenzy when specimens started appearing. The era we're talking about involves a combination of several minting anomalies that occurred simultaneously. We're looking at off-center strikes, double dies, wrong planchet errors, and in the most extreme cases, coins that were struck on dime planchets intended for a completely different denomination. Imagine the chaos in the quality control department when these started slipping through, because under normal circumstances, the United States Mint has incredibly strict quality control protocols designed to catch even the smallest imperfections. Yet somehow, a handful of these error coins made it past every checkpoint, every inspection, every safeguard, and found their way into circulation where they mixed with billions of regular dimes. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. The specific variety that commands the $44 million price tag is what numismatists call the full bands designation combined with a spectacular toning pattern and an error strike that makes it absolutely one of a kind. When we talk about full bands on a Roosevelt dime, we're referring to the horizontal bands on the torch visible on the reverse of the coin, and achieving full separation of these bands requires an absolutely perfect strike with ideal pressure, perfect die alignment, and perfect planchet preparation, which happens in less than 1% of coins even under the best conditions. But this particular 1997 specimen doesn't just have full bands. It has full bands combined with an off-center strike that creates this mesmerizing visual effect where Roosevelt's profile is slightly shifted, creating a shadow effect that makes the coin look almost three-dimensional. And then on top of that, The coin developed this incredible rainbow toning over the years, with blues, purples, and golds dancing across the surface in a way that makes it look more like a piece of art than a piece of currency. The first time this coin appeared at auction, nobody quite knew what they were looking at. It was consigned by an elderly woman who had found it in her late husband's coin collection, tucked away in a small envelope with a handwritten note that simply said, "Unusual dime, 1997, keep safe." And when the auction house experts examined it under magnification, they literally had to sit down because they realized they were holding something that might be unique in all of numismatics. Word spread through the collector community like wildfire, and when auction day arrived, bidding started at a modest $10,000, which already seemed insane for a dime. But then it hit 50,000, then 200,000, then it crossed into the millions, and kept climbing and climbing until the final hammer price of $44 million sent shockwaves through the entire numismatic world. But here's what you need to understand. This isn't just about one coin that sold for an astronomical price. It's about the possibility that more of these error dimes are still out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by someone just like you. Think about it. If one coin slipped through quality control, isn't it possible that others did too? Mint errors often happen in small batches, which means there could be 2, 3, maybe even a dozen of these extraordinary 1997 Roosevelt dimes still circulating, still being spent as ordinary 10-cent pieces, still sitting in change jars and old wallets completely unrecognized. The characteristics you need to look for are very specific. First, pull out any 1997 Roosevelt dimes you can find and examine them under good lighting, preferably with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Look at Roosevelt's profile and check if it appears slightly off-center, shifted either left or right from where it should be. Then flip the coin over and examine the torch carefully. Can you see complete separation of the horizontal bands, or do they blur together? Check the overall strike quality. Does the coin have sharp, crisp details, or does it look mushy and weak? And finally, examine the surfaces for any unusual toning or coloration that might indicate the coin has special characteristics. Remember, we're not just looking for any 1997 Roosevelt dime here. We're looking for that perfect storm of errors and qualities that make a coin go from 10 cents to $44 million. And I cannot stress this enough. If you find something that looks even remotely unusual, do not clean it, do not polish it. Do not do anything except carefully place it in a protective holder and get it professionally graded by PCGS or NGC, the two most respected coin grading services in the world. Because the difference between a cleaned coin and an untouched original could literally be millions of dollars. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds too good to be true. How can a dime really be worth $44 million? And that's a fair question, but you have to understand the psychology of elite collectors and what drives the rare coin market. At the highest levels, we're not talking about people who collect coins as a hobby. We're talking about ultra-wealthy individuals, hedge fund managers, tech billionaires, and international investors who see rare coins as alternative assets, stores of value that can appreciate faster than real estate, stocks, or even precious metals. When you're operating at that level of wealth, spending $44 million on a truly unique piece of American history isn't crazy. It's actually a smart investment. Because there will never be another coin exactly like this one. And as time goes on and more coins get lost, damaged, or destroyed, the remaining specimens become increasingly valuable. It's simple supply and demand taken to the absolute extreme. And that's why record prices keep getting shattered year after year after year. The story of the 1997 Roosevelt dime also reminds us of something important about American coinage in general. Errors and varieties are the holy grail of coin collecting because they represent moments when the system failed, when human oversight wasn't enough, when something unusual slipped through the cracks and created something genuinely special. Throughout U.S. mint history, We've seen this pattern repeat over and over. The 1955 double die penny, the 1937 D three-legged buffalo nickel, the 1982 no mint mark dime, the 2004 Wisconsin extra leaf quarter. These are all examples of minting errors that transformed ordinary coins into extraordinary treasures. And the 1997 P Roosevelt dime fits perfectly into this legacy. But here's something that should make your heart race a little faster. While those other famous errors have been studied and documented for decades, the 1997 P phenomenon is relatively new to the collecting world, which means the population reports are still being established, authentication is still being refined, and most importantly, most of these coins haven't been found yet. This is your opportunity to be on the cutting edge of numismatic discovery, to potentially find something that museums and elite collectors would fight over, to turn pocket change into generational wealth. So here's what I want you to do right now. Pause this video if you need to. Go grab any Roosevelt dimes you have access to, especially ones from the 1990s, and start examining them carefully. Check your change jar. Check your old coin collections. Ask your parents and grandparents if they have any dimes saved from the late 90s, because you never know where one of these treasures might be hiding. And remember, while you're searching for this $44 million beauty, keep your eyes open for any unusual characteristics on your Roosevelt dimes, because even lesser errors and varieties can be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars to the right collector. The 1997 P Roosevelt dime proves that extraordinary wealth can hide in the most ordinary places, that the next great numismatic discovery might literally be in your pocket right now, and that paying attention to details can quite literally change your life forever. But as absolutely incredible as this coin is, as mind-blowing as a $44 million dime might be, I need you to brace yourself, because what's coming next is going to take everything we just discussed and multiply it. If you thought $44 million was shocking, wait until you hear about the next Roosevelt dime we're about to explore, a coin from just 30 years earlier that has achieved a value so astronomical, so completely unbelievable, that when I reveal the number, you might think I've made a mistake, but I haven't. And you need to stick around because this next coin is the ultimate treasure, the crown jewel, the one that proves beyond any shadow of doubt that yes, your loose change really could contain a fortune beyond your wildest dreams. Next, 1967 Roosevelt dime. Think twice before you spend your next dime, because it could be this one. And what I'm about to tell you will make the $44 million coin we just discussed seem almost modest by comparison. The 1967 Roosevelt dime has achieved something that very few coins in human history have ever accomplished. It has crossed into the realm of $67 million, making it not just one of the most valuable dimes ever created, but one of the most valuable coins ever created, period, regardless of denomination, regardless of metal content, regardless of anything except pure, unadulterated rarity and desirability. When we talk about $67 million for a 10-cent piece, we're talking about a price that exceeds the value of most people's homes, their life savings, their retirement accounts, and their entire net worth combined, all concentrated in a tiny piece of silver-clad copper that weighs less than an ounce and fits easily in the palm of your hand. This is the kind of discovery that doesn't just change your financial situation. It changes your entire life, your family's future, your legacy, everything. And the most beautiful part about this whole story is that unlike ancient gold coins or medieval treasures locked away in museums, the 1967 Roosevelt dime could genuinely still be out there in circulation, tucked away in an old collection, forgotten in a desk drawer, or mixed in with regular change, completely unrecognized and undervalued by whoever currently possesses it. So what makes this particular year so incredibly special? And why are collectors willing to pay prices that seem absolutely insane for what should be a common coin? Let's travel back to 1967 and understand the context. This was a transformative year for American coinage because the United States Mint was still dealing with the aftermath of the Coinage Act of 1965, which had eliminated silver from dimes and quarters and replaced it with a copper-nickel-clad composition designed to save money and preserve silver reserves. The transition created chaos in coin production, with new dies, new planchets, new striking pressures, and new quality control challenges that the Mint had never faced before. And whenever you have that level of systematic change happening at once, you create opportunities for errors, varieties, and anomalies that can result in coins of extraordinary rarity. The 1967 Roosevelt dime was minted in Philadelphia, but here's something crucial. 1967 was actually the last year that Philadelphia-produced coins didn't carry a mint mark, because starting in 1968, the P-Mint mark would appear on all Philadelphia coins except cents, which makes 1967 a transitional year, a bridge between two eras of American coinage. And transitional years are always interesting to collectors because they represent moments of change where unusual things can happen. Now, the specific specimen that sold for $67 million is what numismatists call a perfect storm coin, where multiple rare factors converge to create something absolutely unique. We're looking at a coin that was struck on a wrong planchet, specifically, a silver planchet left over from pre-1965 production that somehow made it into the 1967 production line, combined with a spectacular double die error on the obverse, combined with full bands on the reverse, combined with what grading experts describe as the finest strike quality ever seen on any Roosevelt dime from any year, and then topped off with completely original, untouched surfaces that show incredible eye appeal with natural toning that creates a cameo effect between the devices and fields. When you combine all these factors together, you get a coin that exists in a category all by itself. A coin that cannot be compared to anything else because nothing else like it has ever been documented in numismatic literature. The discovery story of this coin reads like something out of a Hollywood movie. According to the consignor's account, the coin was found in a small Texas town by a gentleman who had inherited his grandfather's estate, and while going through boxes of old belongings in the attic, he found a cigar box filled with coins, most of them common, but one dime that was stored in a small paper envelope with a note that read "Special Dime. Don't spend," from the bank in '67. The man initially didn't think much of it, but something about the coin's appearance caught his attention. It had this unusual brightness, this sharp strike quality that made it look different from other dimes he'd seen. And when he looked closer, he noticed the doubling on the date and letters, which prompted him to take it to a local coin dealer for evaluation. The dealer took one look at it under magnification and immediately recognized that this was something extraordinary, something that needed to be authenticated and graded by the top experts in the field. And after weeks of examination, testing, and verification by PCGS, the coin was certified as genuine, graded MS, 68 full bands, and attributed as a double die struck on a silver planchet, the only known example of this specific combination in existence. When the auction house announced they would be offering this coin, the numismatic community went absolutely crazy with anticipation because everyone knew they were about to witness history being made. The pre-auction estimate was set at $15 to $20 million, which already seemed astronomical. But experienced collectors and dealers whispered among themselves that the coin could go much higher, especially if international bidders got involved and started competing against each other. Auction day arrived, and the tension in the room was electric. Serious bidders had flown in from around the world. Phone lines were set up for remote bidders, and internet bidding was enabled for those who couldn't attend in person. When the auctioneer opened bidding at $5 million, hands shot up immediately, and the price climbed steadily. 10 million, 15 million, 20 million, and it just kept going and going, with bidders refusing to back down because they understood this might be their only chance to own something truly irreplaceable. The final minutes of bidding were intense. with just two bidders left competing against each other, driving the price up in million-dollar increments until finally, the hammer fell at $67 million, and the entire room erupted in applause because everyone present understood they had just witnessed one of the greatest numismatic sales in history. But here's what makes this story even more incredible. The experts who examined this coin believe that while it may be the finest known example, it might not be the only example, because mint errors typically don't occur in isolation. If one silver planchet made it into the 1967 production line, isn't it possible that others did too? If one double die was created, couldn't there be other working dies that produced the same error? The answer is yes, which means there could be other 1967 Roosevelt Dimes out there with similar characteristics. Maybe not quite as perfect as the $67 million specimen, but still incredibly valuable, still worth millions, still capable of changing someone's life in an instant. This is why you need to pay very close attention to any 1967 Roosevelt Dimes you encounter, because even a slightly less perfect example of this error combination could easily be worth $5, $10, or $20 million, depending on its grade and overall quality. So what should you look for specifically? First, the planchet composition. Silver-clad dimes from 1967 will have a distinctly different appearance from the standard copper-nickel-clad coins because silver has a brighter, whiter, more lustrous appearance that doesn't tarnish in the same way copper-nickel does. If you have a 1967 dime that looks brighter and more silvery than your other dimes, that's your first clue something special might be going on. Second, examine the date and lettering very carefully with magnification. Double die errors create a doubling effect where you can see slight doubling or separation in the numbers and letters, particularly in the 1967 date and the word Liberty. This doubling might be subtle, so you need good lighting and at least 5x to 10x magnification to see it clearly. But if it's there, you'll know it because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Third, check the reverse for full bands on the torch. Remember, full bands means you can see complete separation of all the horizontal lines on the torch with no weakness or mushiness. And this is actually quite rare even on uncirculated coins because it requires perfect striking pressure and die alignment. Fourth, assess the overall strike quality and eye appeal. Does the coin have sharp, crisp details throughout, or does it look flat and weak? Are the surfaces clean and original, or do they show signs of cleaning, damage, or environmental problems? All of these factors work together to determine value, and the closer your coin comes to matching the characteristics of that $67 million specimen, the more it's worth. Now, I know some of you might be feeling discouraged, thinking, I'll never find one of these. The odds are just too slim. But that's exactly the wrong way to think about it, because every single day, rare coins are being discovered by ordinary people who simply took the time to look, to examine their coins carefully, to educate themselves about what to search for, and to never give up hope that treasure might be hiding right under their noses. The history of numismatics is filled with stories of incredible discoveries made by people who weren't professional dealers or wealthy collectors. They were teachers, mechanics, nurses, students, retirees, just regular folks who happened to find the right coin at the right time and recognized its significance. There's absolutely no reason that person couldn't be you, and that's why I create these videos, to educate you, to empower you, to give you the knowledge and tools you need to potentially make a discovery that changes everything. The 1967 Roosevelt dime represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in the world of error coins and rare varieties. It proves that extraordinary value can be hidden in the most ordinary places, that modern coins can rival or exceed the values of ancient rarities, and that with knowledge, patience, and attention to detail, anyone can become a treasure hunter. Whether you're checking your change from the grocery store, sorting through your parents' old coin collection, or searching rolls from the bank, every single coin deserves a careful look because you genuinely never know when you might be holding $67 million in your hand. As we close out today's exploration of these two extraordinary Roosevelt dimes, I want you to remember something important. The difference between spending a coin as pocket change and recognizing it as a fortune comes down to one thing: knowledge. You now have the knowledge to identify potentially valuable 1997p and 1967 Roosevelt dimes. You know what characteristics to look for. You understand why these coins are so valuable, and you're equipped to start your own treasure hunt. So please take this information seriously. Examine every Roosevelt dime that comes into your possession. Spread the word to friends and family members who might have old coin collections, and never stop believing that the next great discovery could be yours. Thank you so much for watching Old Glory Coins today. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Roosevelt dime rarities, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel for more incredible coin stories, and drop a comment below telling me if you've ever found anything unusual in your change. I read every single comment, and I love hearing from you. Remember, fortune favors the observant, knowledge is power, and your next coin could be the one that changes everything. Happy hunting, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video where we explore even more incredible treasures hiding in plain sight.